First, I want to congratulate you on your nomination for the Image Awards as hosting. What are your thoughts on that? I know this is your third nomination.
No,
so are you
no.
expecting?
Actually, I've been nominated, I think this is my seventh. I've won twice before. And
yes,
so
sir,
hopefully, hopefully we'll win the third one this time. This is actually a new category in terms of best host.
Okay.
And so we'll see what happens.
Okay, and you're new to the city of Pine Bluff. Do you have any words of encouragement for students in such a small city where there's not much going on here, but we're trying to come in the uprise?
Well, to me, the issue is not necessarily whether you go to school in a small city, mid-sized, or large city.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter.
Okay.
What's the most important thing that I stress to any student across the country is to establish a work ethic. Because what happens is there are a lot of people who have dreams. There are people who want to do certain things, but they don't have a work ethic.
Okay.
They don't understand what it requires to be great. And I'll use an analogy in the sports. And we often look at this in sports. When we talk about greatness in the sports, greatness is not defined by who shows up on game day. Greatness is defined by who shows up to practice, who shows up to study film, who shows up to study playbook, who shows up to the weight room. So the exact same thing happens even if you are not in the sports. And so if you are in media, if you are in engineering or any area, the same thing applies, and that is what is the time that you're putting in honing your craft? What is the time that you're putting in learning about different things? It's interesting to me. So, yesterday I was in Houston, and I did my show from Jack Yates High School, Magna School of Communications, which is where I attended. And so here I was doing a national television show, doing a national radio show, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, at the high school where I graduated 30 years previously. What I did then as a high school student, I still do. And so there were students when I was in high school who didn't put the time in, who didn't put the work in, who didn't learn all facets of the industry, so whether it was lighting, whether it was shooting, whether it was on air, whether it was understanding all the technical pieces, trying to sit here and problem solve and figure your way through. And that's what separated me from the rest of them. That's what caused me to be named the best student in my 4 years there, to go on Texas A&M University and have the exact same success, to come into the industry, have the exact same success. Work ethic. Work ethic you're not born with it. You have to actually develop it. And so that's the most consistent thing that I say to any student in any field. If you establish that, you establish a strong work ethic, along with that knowledge, I guarantee you'll be successful.
Okay, so I know you're going to be speaking later on today. Is that kind of going to be like an insight into what your message is going to be later on?
I have no idea.
It's just going to go?
No, I don't write speeches.
Oh, okay.
So I wrote a speech once. I was at the University of North Texas. They had a they were a very strong journalism program, and I was there a speaker, and I barely even read from the written speech. And so usually what I do is, for me, I allow God to be God. So when I walk into the room, I get a sense through discernment of the room, the mood, the feel, and then my speech comes from there. And so I've never written a speech. My deal is just tell me how much time I got, and then we go from there.
Okay, and I know that you were mentioning work ethic, but is there any like play-by-play rules that you could give to our students, as far as do this, do that, and then you can accomplish the same things that I have accomplished?
No, there is no playbook, because everybody's circumstance is different. Okay. Majors are different. The road that you go on is different. I mean, so for me, when I was at Texas A&M, I studied all the different mediums. So it wasn't just one. Okay. And so I didn't only want to be one. I didn't only want to do just television or just radio or just newspaper. And so when you look at my career, I've done newspaper, I've done radio, I've done television, I've done online, I've done photography, I've done all the different facets. I've worked in daily newspaper, I've run weekly newspapers. And so one of the things I think is important, and this is critical, I think, for any student to understand that there is no one way to go down one particular path. So what happens is some people say, well, if you do this, you can achieve here. Well, it's not true. I went from a daily newspaper in Austin, Neighbors Reporter, which we had a weekly edition, to becoming the county government reporter, to going to Fort Worth, becoming the city hall reporter for a daily newspaper, to leaving that to go to a small black radio station, becoming news director, morning anchor, to then running a black weekly newspaper, and then going from there to go to Houston to run a black weekly newspaper, going back to Dallas, freelancing, and then eventually becoming the founding editor of, first of all, news editor of Savoy Magazine in New York, but also Tom Jones' BlackAmericaWeb.com, and then going from that to run the Chicago Defender, to go into CNN. Okay. That's not a traditional path. So the thing that I emphasize, and again, it's different from some people. I prefer freedom and flexibility over anything else. What I mean by that is, I didn't have this overriding desire like a lot of other people. I had to work at the New York Times. I had to work at the Washington Post. I never believed that you could only do great journalism working at those institutions. Some folks think differently. So I had folks who were saying, Roland, I mean, you know, you're one of our most talented students. Why aren't you going to work at the New York Times? I said, because I don't want to. So there were people who went to the New York Times who they might put them in a bureau or they were clerking. Well, my first job, I got promoted twice in the first 9 months. I was promoted 3 times in the first year when I go to Fort Worth. I go to Fort Worth, I'm a part of our team covering the Branch Davidian standoff in Waco when it was set on fire. I was on the ground in Oklahoma City 3 hours after the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building blew up, and was the co-lead writer on the front page for the following 5 days. So for me, I just don't believe that. I believe what you do is you can say, I can do great work anywhere. And the other piece is, and a lot of people, and look, I'm a firm believer, I want to get paid for my worth. But I go back to freedom and flexibility. If you told me I could get paid over here $90,000, $100,000, and it was rigid, but you said I got paid $60,000 or $70,000 over here, and I had the freedom and flexibility to determine the content, to control the content, I'll take the 60 or 70 because I'm shaping and molding a narrative. Over here, I'm asking, can I cover something? See, that's the difference. And so a lot of people get consumed by that where they think, oh no, I want to make the most. No. But it's what do you do with that? What is the impact? And so, look, I spent 6 years at CNN as a contributor, but I wasn't hosting my own show. There are people who are hosting their show right now who don't have the freedom and flexibility that I have. They don't control the content. They don't determine who comes on the show. In fact, other folks do. And they wish they had the freedom and flexibility I had. And so again, you have to have a whole different view, I think, when you talk about, in terms of whatever that particular path is. What makes you happy and satisfied? That's actually the most important thing.
Okay. So which do you prefer? Is it radio or print or just as long as you can
No, there's no one medium that I prefer over the other, because each medium brings something unique and different. Newspaper or magazine, the written word is different from the spoken word. The spoken word, even though you can have it on YouTube or whatever, it's in the air, it's gone. Whereas the written word, you see it, you feel it. There's something different when you are determining what that front page image is and what that headline is. That's different than television or radio. Online is a lot different because of the speed and the immediacy. And so every medium, just like photography, I mean, I hate the fact that I shoot so much video now, and so much we're driven with social media's video, but there's something majestic and beautiful about photography. One of the reasons why I tell everyone, whether you're in television or even in print, why you must shoot. Because when you are looking through that viewfinder, you see the world differently. And in fact, like some of the cameras now, so you have the camera, you're opening up, and you have the viewfinder. No, I tell people, you literally need to put the other viewfinder on your eye, because you literally see totally different. There are things that you see looking in the viewfinder that you're not going to see if you're just looking at that LCD screen. There's a level of intimacy when you're shooting a photograph or video that you can't get anywhere else. If you're a producer, you need to understand that. One of my producers, I made her shoot video, and she never understood why. I said, because you can't be an excellent producer to understand what kind of shots you want and what kind of identity you want to create if you don't see it. And so I said, shooting video will make you a better producer. And so all the mediums have their pluses and minuses. So there's no one that I say is better than the other.
Now, what role has NABJ played in your career?
Oh, critical role. I joined NABJ in 1989. In fact, the first regional conference I attended was in Little Rock in '89, and then I went to our national convention in New York that year. Nearly every job, and it's true, nearly every job that I've had, probably except two.
Wow. Nearly
every job that I've had has been a result of the relationships that I established from that first convention forward. The reality is, look, jobs are not filled in this country based upon a job posting. They're filled based upon somebody recommends somebody else, someone tips you off to what a particular job is. And so I remind folks of that. And so the relationship building is important, how you actually do it. When we went to our convention in '89, I made it clear to my Texas A&M classmates. So when we had luncheons and stuff along those lines, I wouldn't sit with them. Because what happens is students go to these events, and then what they do is, they want to stick together. When my deal is like, no, I already know you. Yes. So my job is to get out of that comfort zone and meet and greet other people. And then with that, how you stay in contact. It's a lot easier today, because then you're talking about either writing a letter or you're talking about calling somebody. It's not like, email and social media was not as significant as it is today. But that is still critically important. That was great because the people who I met, our founders, people like Vernon, Jared, and others, those are folks who I would learn from, who I would talk to, would listen to. When I was George Curry, we recently lost George Curry last year. These are folks who, when I had job offers or going on job interviews, I will call, get some insight. What do you know about this particular person? What do you know about this particular place? And so it served as the most critical source for me in my career. The mistake young folks make is they don't maximize the network. Yes, sir. You have to maximize the network. Just thinking it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. I talked about work ethic. That's what I did. I put the time in. I mean, I'm talking about the meet and greet, the traveling and seeing people and talking to people and following up and remembering people's wives or husbands or children and birthdays and things along those lines. Because again, that's relationship building. Getting somebody's card is not relationship building. Staying in contact with somebody, seeking their advice and counsel. See, a lot of students make a mistake where they say, well, can you be my mentor? I tell them no, because I believe in the biblical model of a mentor-mentee relationship. The biblical model is that the mentor picks the mentee. So if you look at Elijah and Elisha, if you look at Moses and Joshua, they were picked, they were purposely chosen. A mentor chooses a mentee because they say there's something I see in that person I want to download into them. It's not the reverse. So I always tell people you need to find a mentor where you are, because you're going to be in good relationship and proximity with that particular person. But it doesn't mean you don't reach out and talk to folks. I've had NABJ members who call me up, and these are folks who are adults, who call me up wanting advice and counsel. People who are much older than me who are like, Roland, you've done all these things at an early age. Hey, what should I look out for, whatever. So that's the beauty of the organization. But what you make of the organization determines its relevance to you. If you do nothing, people say, well, NABJ means nothing. That's probably because you haven't done anything with it.
Sir.
So there you go.
Okay. Well, that's all that I have for you on today, and thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for visiting the university.
All right, thanks a lot.